Every area has its legends, and while some are very good, some are nothing short of terrifying. Riverdale Road boasts story after story connected with murders, crimes, and really creepy supernatural events. This is part 2 of this road's many tales of murder, so if you missed the first part, go back and check it out. I will be here with more lore when you get back. Cars have played a key role in our history. Some people think that cars are the coolest thing ever and go to different shows to look at them. Others, like me, just run their college car into the ground because it still runs and I honestly couldn't care less what it looks like. But as far as cars go, people tend to perk up when you mention a 70s Camaro. When you drop 70s Camaro into Google, you're basically teleported into a land where cars were still cool enough to really recognize. And you'll probably notice that it's the exact kind of car that you would see in an old horror film. Maybe that is why it gained such prominence when one crashed, killing everyone in the vehicle while driving down Riverdale Road. Tellings of this story can vary. Some say that there was only one driver and that he perished while speeding through one of Riverdale Road's many blind corners. Others are more focused on what actually led to the crash. Was it a couple fighting? Did someone surprise the driver when they came around that corner? Was the vehicle possibly run off the road? It's anyone's guess, but it's very important to note that this did end in death. And while true crime doesn't generally cover reckless driving, it doesn't seem that the events leading up to this accident were all that legal. In one telling, the crash is blamed on a missing headlight, and I would just be so mad if that was my claim to fame as a ghost story. Dying over what really boils down to a faulty vehicle charge really isn't great, in my opinion, but regardless of whether or not the driver feels personally responsible for their death and the potential deaths of others, the fact remains that this individual is reportedly very unhappy about how things transpired. Possibly because they died, possibly because they messed up their car. It's really anyone's guess. The stories state that the driver can still be seen in the Camaro and that the vehicle is known to appear at night. Local legends say that when you drive through the area at night, it's possible that the ghostly Camaro will appear, and it isn't there to have a good time. This treacherous vehicle shows up all in one piece, except for the broken headlight, of course. When you see it, the apparition will challenge you to a race, an idea which is generally advised against, but nobody really confirms whether or not you have a choice. Whether you are racing a ghost or your local nemesis, it is important to remember that street racing is totally illegal. Of course, the stories do say that you won't have to worry about getting a ticket for your crimes. You can't win a race against someone who isn't afraid to die, and racing this particular ghost is more likely to end in your death. Whether the ghost tricks you into meeting a similar fate or just outright murders you for daring to accept the challenge, there are no winners in this race. At this point in time, most of us are looking for good ways to maintain our general level of fitness. For some people, it is lifting weights in the gym. For others, it might be something crazy like aerial yoga, or yoga with goats. There is no lack of ways to stay healthy and active in the modern world, but some people like to keep things more low-key and classic. For these individuals, jogging is their healthy poison of choice. But any time that you engage in a fitness-related activity, you always assume some degree of risk. It's unavoidable. Jogging comes with plenty of health risks, all of which you will hear from a child that is trying to get out of gym class. But outdoor jogging can come with one really big and obvious concern: drivers. I'm sure this is true everywhere, but if there's one thing that I've heard adult Colorado residents complain about my entire life, it is the drivers. As a kid, it was those California drivers, and as I got older, the finger was pointed at Texas drivers. Now, so many people have moved here in recent years that it's just a constant narrative of angry Colorado natives being mad every single time that they see a license plate that's from another state. Given all of this, it isn't surprising that people would advise you to be careful when jogging near the road. Now, I'm just a true crime podcast host, but I have to assume that this is even more true when you're running next to a road that is notorious for people dying, right? But rumors state that a jogger did attempt to get their exercise near Riverdale Road, and it didn't end well. Just like the child known for leaving behind bloody handprints, our jogger met an untimely demise while traveling the road on foot. And because people really just like to make ghosts out here, the story goes that the jogger was abandoned and left to bleed to death on the side of the road. While the jogger slowly died, the driver decided to flee the scene, leaving behind one angry ghost. Now, the stories behind this ghost are known to change, as is true with any lore, with some stating that if you travel the road by foot, you will hear an invisible person running up on you. That's not totally unnerving at all, right? Others report hearing the thrumming heartbeat of someone who was murdered while they were just trying to better themselves. But for drivers, there is a very different story. And I cannot tell you how horribly anxious this would leave me. Apparently, quite a few drivers have reported the phantom sensation of their vehicle striking someone when they drive down this road. So, if you want to take a quick minute to imagine that. But don't worry, if you feel your vehicle strike something, it probably isn't a real person or animal. It's probably just the enraged spirit of a ghostly jogger forcing you to relive the moment that will forever define them. Even though people say that you're just hitting a ghost, I feel like I would kind of have to wonder about that a little bit. Given Riverdale Road's bloody history, I would probably pull over to double check just to be sure I didn't actually hit someone and make yet another ghost to haunt the area. Of course, that is also probably how I would end up being murdered by this ghost myself, so maybe just go on your way. Just make sure that you have working headlights and keep an eye out for anyone daring enough to walk down this road, okay? I think it's so interesting how so many areas have these stories, and it makes sense if you think about it. Sometimes it's hard to remember that the way that a place looks right now isn't really indicative of its past. These places and roads have been here long before us, and they will outlast us too. Realistically, tragedy is inevitable, and it happens everywhere. But when it comes to places like this, you kind of just have to wonder, is this really just a normal space where bad things have happened, or is there something about Riverdale Road that attracts all kinds of horrible events? I know that I've got quite a few Colorado listeners, so if you live near this area and have lore of your own to share, or any stories, I would love to hear more about this. Like I mentioned, this whole area is all news to me, but Thornton is pretty close to me, so maybe I'll head over and check the road out for myself. You know, during the day, with a shotgun that shoots salt. So, what do you think about these rumors? Has anyone ever actually died on Riverdale Road, or are these just stories from the locals that have been twisted throughout the years? Lore is often based on truth, and I'd be curious to know just how many people have really been left for dead on Riverdale Road. So, if you want to discuss local lore, angry ghosts, or you just want to tell me to go check it out to see if I come back at all, feel free to contact me on Twitter or Instagram using the tag @datpod. Thanks, guys.